So yeah, that was super crazy, and just something that I will never forget, but something I'm eternally grateful for, to the Most High and to my beautiful wife. So that was one time that I almost died, that she saved my life. And you want to tell them about one of your near death experiences?
Yes. Oh gosh, where to start? So unfortunately, just after we had all three children, and I did kind of try to stay sober for a little bit there, but then the access in our city was just everywhere. And
Overwhelming.
unfortunately, because we didn't remove ourselves from the access, it was just such a temptation, and I fell back into it like even worse than before. And my behaviors were it was just awful, um, just doing way too much, like way too much. And I would take way more than I needed at one time. And during this time, I was teaching music, and I was, driving. I was teaching music, and I was also cleaning people's houses. And so I would be driving all over Colorado Springs area and the surrounding, sub cities. And so unfortunately, I was driving a lot, and I would be just completely out of my mind on opioids and Xanax and that kind of just pills in general. And so I had quite a few close calls, but I think one of the worst. Unfortunately, there were times, and I know that the Most High kept me. This is why nobody can tell me that He's not there, because literally He would tap me on my shoulder right when I was about to go off the road, because I'm literally asleep behind the wheel because I'm so out of my mind on these pills. And one time I was literally on the highway going 75 miles an hour, and there was traffic all around me. And as I wake up, I am colliding with a semi. And to be honest, I don't even know if he noticed, because he just kept going. But I hit, kind of like center of the 18 wheeler with my side of the vehicle. And I woke up as it was happening, so I was able to get back over into my lane. But I knocked the side view mirror off. I busted our driver's side door so it wouldn't stay closed after that. And I'm lucky that was all that happened was damage to the car. Like, that could have been it for me, but he woke me up, and it was awful. There was multiple times when I'd have to come home and explain what happened with the car, because there would be dings here and there, and or like that one was major. And it was just it was crazy. It was crazy. You would think that would have been the thing that brought me out and was like, okay, that's the last straw, But unfortunately, it took multiple other incidents for us to really fully pull out of it. But we'll get to that.
And I think one of the things that was really wild during this time too was, remember how I told you that the grace and mercy of the Most High, He kind of kept me just a little bit more present and aware, not quite as deeply immersed as my wife. And I believe He did that as a way of protection, to kind of allow me to at least try to kind of look out for her a little bit. And a lot of these things I didn't even know had happened. Like, I wasn't fully. I knew we were both hooked and we were wilding out. We was in the streets tough, selling them and and buying them and trading and all that kind of stuff. But one thing that was wild was she actually did, and this, I'm almost ashamed to say this, but she actually did a pretty good job, and ashamed for myself, not for her. She did a pretty good job of even hiding from me, like how like the degree that her addiction was a little worse than mine, and I being a terrible, poor excuse of a husband and a covering, and not being in the spiritual place or physical place I needed to be in to be the proper spiritual and physical covering for her. Um, I wasn't even aware of how severe, um, like how severe the difference between us was. I wasn't even aware, and a lot of these things that she was experiencing, like I didn't even find out till later. Now I know that's, as a man, that is super embarrassing. Like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, how are you not present there to know what your wife is going through, to look out for her, to care for her, to protect her? And number one reason is because I'm knee deep in my own mess, so I'm not in the place I need to be. But it was wild. Like I didn't even know like how severe it had gotten with like the amount of close calls that she had until like later in life, and it just again the gratitude that Yah's mercy covered a multitude of sins, and even where I was lacking and just completely failing in my job and responsibility, he was gracious and merciful, and he made up that difference and kept her protected and covered where I was failing miserably at doing so, miserably.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough time, and I think a lot of the depth of my addiction had a lot to do with just a lot of addiction on both sides of my family. Um, and again, this is not me making excuses
Right.
at all, because I made those decisions and I did those things, and there was just so much that was it's just crazy looking back, because like I don't know that person anymore, and that person is not somebody who I ever saw myself being,
Right.
even before then. So it's crazy to look back. It's almost like watching a movie that was starring someone else. Like it
Pretending
really,
to be you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really does not feel like me. Because they're like the things I was doing are just things I would never put my life in danger and risk my children not having a mother.
Right.
It's crazy for me to look back and realize just how gone I was into that full on addiction, and just completely given over to that dark spirit. It's evil. It is evil.
Completely.
I don't know if, do you want me to tell my other one, or do you want to tell your other one?
I can. Yeah, we can alternate, I guess. And so another major one where once again I am so eternally grateful. Number one to Yah, and and number two to my beautiful rib helpmeet, and most of the time better half sitting here next to me.
Not during that time.
Hey, well, most of the time, this is my better half. The balance, there. I never forgot this phrase I heard when I was a child. I heard someone say, "If two people exactly alike get married, one of them is unnecessary."
Mm-hmm.
And I never forgot that, even as a youngin. And so, just like I said, there's so many you could never shake me or rock me on my wife and our marriage and our relationship. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that she is the one meant for me, and Yah brought us together, and this is the two becoming one flesh, and us being fitly joined together in Yahuwah. You can never make me question it. I know for beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, yet another time where she literally saved my life. This was during a time when because you got to realize, like, with the one sin leads to another, and a domino effect, it spirals out of control very quickly. So I had kind of like sunk into the street life pretty rapidly once we got pretty deep into the pill game, and like I was to you just start to the domino effect. So to not only support your own habit, but to network and so on and so forth. I had actually begun selling quite a bit of drugs, like a big variety, and just went from 0 to 100 real quick. Just selling all kind of craziness, and like the mercy of y'all. If I had ever gotten pulled over and caught with all the stuff that I would have in the car simultaneously, like I never got out. I would have never got out. Like just riding with like 7 felonies worth of narcotics of all the varieties, and just craziness. But so one of my contacts, this was a period of time where we couldn't really find the usual, like, because we were pretty much, we were just painkiller people. We were opioid users, and we didn't, again, the mercy of Yah, we didn't really kind of veer off into doing a lot of the hard drugs that most people, the next step that they go to, like actually smoking heroin or actually smoking meth or actually shooting up and stuff like that. We never got to that point. We just stuck with the pills, and it was wild because a lot of the people we were networking with and doing business with, most if not all of them had all taken that next step. And so even in our foolishness, even in our dirt and our dust and our muck and our mire, like we were somewhat separated and an anomaly in that even amongst the rest of the people in the pit, Yah kept us to a degree, and we stayed on the kind of the opioid thing, and it literally like made us stand out a little bit. Like people would always like commend us on the fact that all we did was do, like, how silly is that? But they would commend us on the fact that all we did was the pills, and we stayed there, and they were happy for us, and just weird. But anyway, so it was during this time I was on a run with one of my contacts, and we couldn't find the opioids that we usually like to take. So in desperate situations, if we couldn't find any, and like your body was starting to feel weird, you started to knock on the door of some withdrawal, we would take a Xanax instead, because Xanax helps you sleep like a rock. Okay, now we didn't actually really enjoy Xanax because, number one, it doesn't have the opiate effect, so you don't get the rush of like the pleasure release of the chemicals in your brain. You don't get that relaxed endorphin kind of feeling. Xanax literally just like blacks you out for anywhere from 12 to 72 hours, depending on how much you take. The few handful of times, like, and we can count probably on one hand, and wouldn't even need all my fingers, the amount of time that I actually took Xanax because I didn't enjoy it. You would take it, and then you would just lose an incredible amount of time. An incredible amount. Sorry, that's my phone. That's an alarm to look at the moon. So like when new moon comes. So that'll be in another video. So anyway, excuse that. So you would take a Xanax and you would just black out. You would lose an insane amount of time. And when I say black out, like you literally had no clue what happened for the past 12 to 24 hours. You just had no clue. You could have lived your whole life, your normal 24-hour period or 12-hour period of your life, lived a full day, and you would remember none of it. You had driven, gone places, kicked it with people, run errands, and you have no clue, no memory of it whatsoever. I did not enjoy that feeling, and it made you feel like super, super, super groggy the next day. Wasn't really my thing, but in a pinch, if I really needed some sleep, then I would do it. So it was weird because this one particular night, I was really trying, and it was dry. The streets was dry. I couldn't find anything that we usually liked. The only thing I could find were a couple of these Xanax from one of my other usual contacts, and looking back, there were many signs that I should have just left it alone. But I was, being an idiot, knuckleheaded, and bound and determined to try and at least get something so that we could rest and sleep, whatever. And like I said, we tried to minimize, the dosage and the intake of Xanax because we did still maintain, even in our complete craziness, we did maintain an acute consciousness of making sure our children were taken care of at all times. And so we really didn't mess with the Xanax and stuff because I know this sounds weird, but even in all our mess, we were very, very keen on making sure we were present for our children, making sure they were taken care of, fed, clothed, bathed, spend time with them. You know what I mean? So we had this kind of weird unspoken covenant that no matter how bad it got for us or how deep into addiction we got, they would always be taken care of, and we would never become those people that started to neglect their children over this.
Yes.
And we worked very, very hard at that. And even like she said, where the hospital called DHS on her when she was trying to get help. Even the DHS agent, when they came out and talked to us, visited us and stuff, they were just like, you guys are not like any of the other people we go and visit and see. Like, I don't see any issue. You'll be fine. And like, they never came back. So again, y'all was very, very, very merciful to us. And just even in, like I said, I can never say this enough. In spite of all our despair and in our darkness, there was still a portion of Him keeping us, even in that life. So I'm getting way off track. But anyway. So being a knucklehead, I kept pushing, finally link up with dude, get a couple of Xanax, come back home. We both take one. All I'm thinking is, I'm going to take this little Xanax and get me some rest, get up tomorrow. I believe I was off the next day. And I was holding down a job during all this foolishness. Imagine that. So I said, just get some rest. We'll just hang out on our off day, whatever happens. Like, we can at least get some sleep. So I take the Xanax, everything's fine, no big deal. We're sitting there chilling, watching TV. You feel the usual intense sleepiness come on you from the Xannies, and I go ahead and pass out. The next day, and I really don't even know how to describe this to you other than if anyone has seen, I think it's an episode of Black Mirror. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Black Mirror. Where the guy is like stuck inside his own body. He's like strapped down to a chair, and he's like in this completely dark room strapped down to a chair, and he's looking at like this giant TV screen that is like representative of him looking out through his eyes of his own body. But he's trapped in there. He's living, doing things. His body is a part of stuff, but the real him, his consciousness, his will, his mind is like strapped down to this chair, and he's powerless to actually control his body and make decisions, communicate, interact, do the things that he wants to do with his own body. He's like a prisoner in his own mind, and he's just watching life happen to him through this giant screen, which again is supposed to be like looking out through his eyes. The best way I can describe what happened the next day is something like that. That Black Mirror episode, and it was so bizarre. Like, I woke up, I can't even give a step by step exactly from when I woke up and did all that, but anyway, at some point I woke up, and throughout the day I was in such physical and mental turmoil and anguish. It's almost impossible to describe. Like, I was in an extreme amount of pain and discomfort, and all I can say is I felt like I was like fighting. I was like, but not physically, yes, because I felt like I had lost control of my body. I could not speak. And when I say couldn't speak, I mean literally I could not form words. I was just like mumbling and groaning and grunting, like I could not actually speak. I could vocalize, but I could not speak. I had lost control of my mouth, my lips, my tongue. I had lost control of like all my motor skills. My body was doing things. I was moving. I was, active, but it was outside of my control. I was definitely sick. I mean, like sick to my stomach. Like I was violent, like violent puking for the entire day. Can't explain to you why. Didn't eat anything really the night before. Nothing crazy. No food poisoning. But whatever was in, and you gotta understand, in that kind of culture where opioids are very huge, a big thing that happens because the money is so good and the entire city is so addicted. Whenever that happens, fake or bad product becomes a huge issue, because people, there's no morals in that system, and people are willing to sacrifice strangers to make money because the money is so good. And not even saying that my contact did this to me knowingly because he got them from somewhere. I'm saying I think that they were bad. They were bad pills or fake pills that someone had made. And when people were making fake pills, they were making them with rat poison and all types of craziness. All types of random chemicals they would put together that, all you needed was a white powder. And people had pill presses where, like, you could make your own white powder compounds, press them into the shape of the pill. It would put the actual real pharmaceutical stamp on them, and then you could sell them. They looked completely real, so when you would sell them to someone, they had no reason to doubt that they were getting what they thought they were paying for. So I am like 99% convinced I got a bad pill, but like lost control of my body. I was violently throwing up for the entire day. I couldn't speak. Like I said, I felt like I was locked in like a life or death battle on the inside. It was almost like I could feel like I was almost like fighting something else for my body, like fighting for control, because I was aware and I was conscious of what was going on inside, like in my mind. I was aware and conscious of what was going on, but I was powerless to do anything about it. It was the strangest sensation. It was completely maddening, infuriating, frustrating, confusing to a degree that I can't even begin to communicate to you, because I was like, why can't I control my body? Why can't I speak? Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like this, but like, if you can imagine being fully aware, fully conscious in your mind, being able to see what's going on, but it's like you're watching what's happening to you like a spectator, and you're not able to control your own physical like faculties. And so I knew I was freaking out, but I didn't know why, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was violently thrown up. I couldn't speak. I was like my body was like, I would just get up and just like be like rambling, stumbling all over the house. I was in an intense, excruciating amount of pain. Whenever I would vomit, it was so painful that like I could hear my body like moaning from the pain, and I could see my wife. I could see her. I could see her face. I was fully aware of what was going on. I could see the sheer like pain and sorrow and confusion and on her face, and the worry, the concern. But I couldn't do anything about it. I was so desperately trying to communicate with her that like, I'm here. I'm in here. Like, I'm still here. I know that this makes no sense, and this is terrifying, and this is scary, and this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened, but like, you haven't lost me. Like, I'm still here. Like, don't give up hope. Don't give up on me. Like, I'm still here. And I could, like, in my own mind, I was thinking like, okay, should I just try to have her take me to the hospital? Because I'm at my wit's end. There's nothing my thoughts are doing that are working where I can regain control of myself, that I can communicate. Like, so should we just go to the hospital? But at the same time, and this may have just been the Most High just planting a little seed and just letting me know. Deep down, somehow I knew that even though I was at my wit's end and completely desperate, I could not go to the hospital. Like, I just had this sense of knowing that if we went there, like, they were gonna lock me up. like I mean lock you away like in a psych ward type of situation. I'd get drugged up out of my mind, and then who knows what would have happened. I mean, last scene, I didn't want to be lost in the system, you know, because I also had this weird sense of like, even though there was this intense panic at the forefront of my mind of like, oh my gosh, am I going to be stuck like this forever? Like, what is going on? And deep down, I knew that this is not going to be forever. I don't know how long it's going to last, but if I can just outlast it, it'll pass, and I'll regain control of myself, and I'll be able to communicate with my wife, and I'll be back to normal. And so I was trying to communicate all these things to her while not being able to speak. You don't understand. And I know this sounds ridiculous. I know this sounds dumb. This sounds weird. It may even sound like I'm crazy, and I don't care because I'm so grateful that y'all brought me through it. And trust me, as crazy as you may think it sounds, or as crazy as you may think I am, it's not even half of how crazy I felt while it was going on, because I was fully aware and conscious, but like a prisoner in my own body, and like battling some unseen force for control of my physical body, trying to communicate with my wife, not able to do it, violently puking all over the place, trying to lay down and rest, but like in this intense state of like anguish. That's the only way I can describe it. Like physical, mental, spiritual, like anguish. And the anguish was on top of the anguish of not being able to communicate. Then you add on the anguish of seeing my wife, but seeing what she was going through and not being able to reassure her that I'm still in here, and I believe that if we can just outlast this, I'll be okay. I don't know what's going on, but just hang with me. The questions of should I go to the hospital, but also like I know I can't go. They're gonna lock me away. And then I'll be drugged out of my mind. And who knows what'll happen then? I'll definitely never be able to communicate again. This makes no sense. They're gonna think I've gone crazy, or man, it was without a doubt. And as crazy as that was with the doctor with the metal wand electroshock therapy thing, this was without a doubt the craziest day of my life, bar none. It blew the doctor event out of the water by 100 billion, and that was terrifying and weird. This was way worse, and I don't know if it was some sort of latent effects of that, if that taking the bad pill in conjunction with whatever happened to me with the weird experimental treatment, if that triggered that, if they were connected, I don't know, or if it was just simply some sort of weird demonic concoction that these people had put into these bad pills, and it just completely set me off. The weird thing was she took the same one and it did nothing to her. It was just me, which is why I'm wondering if it was connected to the electroshock treatment thing. But
just grace.
Right, or just grace, where the Most High kept, like He did so often, He would keep one of us present and aware so that we could take care of the other one and get through our craziness. For all we know, He just incinerated the compound in her system, knowing what was going to happen, and kept her completely clear so that she could be there and be a rock with me. And I could see it. I could see her trying to battle and figure out whether she should take me in or not. And I'm trying to communicate to her like, no, don't take me to the hospital. Just hang in there with me. I literally can't talk. She's trying to keep me isolated in our room so that I don't freak out the kids. You know what I mean? She, with the grace of the Most High and with her love and patience and resilience, without a doubt, she saved my life yet again. Because if we would have gone to the hospital, I have no doubt that I would not be sitting here talking to you today. I'd be locked up somewhere in some medical psych ward, drugged out of my mind, and just completely isolated from my family. And y'all is just so merciful, so great, so gracious, and I'm just so grateful. But yeah, I really, it's hard to even communicate what I was actually going through, so I'll let her explain from her point of view.
Yeah, that was the most terrifying day of my life. Like, I've been through a lot of stuff, but like, I've never had to face the possibility of losing him before, and that was like incomprehensibly terrifying and painful. But at the same time, even though I was completely panicking and so scared, I had to stay present in the time so that I could take care of him and take care of our children and make sure that just try to make sure that there was minimal effect on them.
Right.
Because like he said, he had no control over himself, and that was so scary because I could see him trying desperately to communicate, but there were no words. It was like something had his tongue and he couldn't speak, and I could see the anguish on his face too, and that he was trying so hard and I was trying so hard, like just trying to get him to come back to me, like pleading and begging for him to come back. And I was obviously spiritually I was in a terrible place, but I prayed for 8 hours nonstop, like, please God, if please just get us through this. It was like, please bring him back to me. I can't do this thing without him. I can't live this life without him. And it was crazy because sorry. It was crazy because I had the same exact thoughts that he had, as far as, at first I was going back and forth, because I had no idea what was going on. Obviously I knew there was some sort of weird effect going on with the pills that we had taken, but I was confused because it didn't happen to me, and I'm like, why is it affecting him so badly? And I was going back and forth at first with, should I take him in? Should I call 911? But I knew, and I had already had so many negative experiences in the medical world at this point. I knew that if I did get to that point of calling them, they were gonna lock him up, and then I really would lose him. And so I was like, okay, like, we're just gonna do this, we're gonna push through, and I just kept praying and praying that he would come back. And I kept trying to get him to just lay down and sleep it off, but he was just determined, boy. He would just get up and be stumbling and fumbling all over the house, puking everywhere. Like, it was so scary. It was so scary. But praise God that I finally did get him to sit down and sleep through the night. And when he woke up that next day, and I swear I was just sitting there next to him because we had slept on the couch, and I was just sitting there.
No, by this point we were in the bed.
No, we were on the couch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I will never forget this moment, babe.
Oh, I know. I remember the moment. I just thought that it happened in the that you had finally got me to lay down in the bed.
That I did at one point, but you
okay.
had gotten up, and I think for some reason you were more comfortable sitting up,
Yeah.
and so we had these like little recliners in the couch where you could kind of lay back a little bit, and so finally I had got him to sleep there. And like the next morning, I was just like kind of like, I had woken up and was just like staring at him, like praying that, like waiting for him to wake up. And when he woke up and looked at me, and I could see him, he was there behind those eyes, and he spoke to me, and he just, hey babe. I burst into tears. I have never been more relieved in my entire life, besides when our children were born and that first cry.
Right.
This was like the most relief, and I just started crying because I knew that we had made it. We got through that horrific experience, and that he was back, and that I wasn't gonna lose him forever to this monster, whatever was keeping him trapped prison in his own body. It was insane, but praise Yah, he brought us through that as well. And believe it or not, that is not the last crazy thing to happen to us.
Nope.
There was...
Hold on, before you get past real quick, just that moment when, in the morning, when I woke up, like, you talking about relief, like, I remember, waking up, I thought we were in the bed, but she would know better than me, so we were reclining on the couch, and I remember my head being kind of laid down, and the way I was laying, I was turned towards her, and I remember when I woke up, and I could just feel it, I knew, like, oh my God, I'm back. Like, I'm back. It's over. Mm-hmm. And when I woke up, and I could just feel it. It had passed. Whatever it was, it had passed. And I woke up, and I looked at her, and she was just laying there. She said she was just laying there, like, staring into my soul, even with my eyes closed. And, like, you could just, like, waiting with bated breath, just like. And I woke up, and our eyes locked, and I just said, hey, babe, I was just... it's pretty deep and romantic. I know. Like, after all that, she just put up with 12 hours of me fighting some demon from my body or whatever the heck had happened. And I'm just like, hey, babe, like, nothing happened, just a regular morning. Like, I should have said something way more profound or grateful, but that's all I could think to say. And, like, she just burst into tears so hard, and I was just like, ah. And, like, I'm not, like, a big weeper or crier, but, like, that... It would have been very appropriate if I would have burst into tears myself, because, like, that same, like, overwhelming gush of relief, like, I felt the same way. It was like, oh my gosh, it's over. You know how a lot of times in movies when, like, something super, super crazy happens and, like, there's a horrible catastrophe and then it's all over in the morning, and, like, the way they shoot the movie, like, in the morning, the sunlight looks especially beautiful. You hear, like, birds singing and chirping and stuff. Like, I promise you, that's how it felt when I woke up. Like, the sunlight, the sunrise was like, the light peeking through the window was so golden and beautiful, and, like, the birds singing, it just sounded so sweet and melodious, and I was just like, it's like, ah, like, it was such a relief, and I was so grateful, and we just hugged each other, and we just sat there and just held each other for forever. And I just, throughout the morning, once the children woke up, I just held each of my kids for just each one, like, just held them for a while. Just so grateful that we had made it through. And once again, man, my pillow of rest, my baby, once again, she had came through for you, boy, and it saved my life. No question about it. So I'm just so grateful for her. So grateful. Sorry, I mean, you can do your next one.
No, it's okay. Speaking of being grateful, so, during this time, like we said, we both had prescriptions, and it had gotten so bad for me to the point where he had started having to hide the pills because I was just out of control, and
Savage.
I would wait for him to fall asleep and, like, just go and just party all night for no reason. It was crazy, like,
pure savage.
Crazy. And this particular night, I guess I decided I was gonna party, and I had found where he hid him. Because I knew all his little hiding spots.
No, she didn't.
And so I would take a few, and I would, sit there and I don't know, hang out, watch TV. Everybody else was asleep, so I was just kind of chilling. And then I would like fall asleep for a while, and then I would wake back up and be like, oh yeah, I meant to take some pills and party. So I would get back up and take a few more. I would sit there for a little bit and pass back out. And I did this. I don't even know how many times I did this during the night, but for some reason I kept waking up and taking more, thinking that I hadn't taken any yet. And I did this like almost the whole night. So then the following morning, I woke up and it was just like any other morning. He was off that day, so I went and laid down next to him, and I remember just kind of like snuggling up to him and kind of just, you know, getting our little morning snuggles in, and then I like drifted off to sleep. And then the next thing I know, I'm waking up on the floor surrounded by paramedics. So I have to let him tell you at this point, because that's all I remember.
So yeah, so she crawled in the bed. She was, you know, snuggling up next to me, and like, I don't care what y'all say, but you can be a real one and still snuggle with your wife. All right, ain't nothing wrong with grown men getting snuggles from the woman of, you know, the woman he loves. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see no foolishness in the comments. So yeah, even to this day, like, I'm an old man. Our kids are all big, and like, I still like morning snuggles with my baby. So I'll never get tired of that. And so she was laying there, and she would always like kind of scooch in next to me and put her head on my chest. So you know, I'm laying there holding on to her, and like she said, it was an off day, so I'm just kind of laying there, just kind of chilling, you know, basking in the nice morning sunshine. And I was watching something on TV. I think we're just laying in the bed and watching something on TV, and I was just kind of laying there holding on to her, you know. And she spoke to me when she came in the room, you know. We said good morning and so on and so forth. She snuggles in next to me, we lay down, and she drifts off to sleep. No big deal, you know. This happens a lot, you know. You pass back out for a little while in the morning. And so I was laying there, and again, just Yah's mercy and grace, and us just knowing each other so well because we spent so much time together, really, really becoming one flesh, and you know, becoming so tightly knit. The first thing that made me look at her was I noticed that her breathing had changed, and it was just more so I noticed that it had just kind of stopped, so to speak. Like, you know, she went from the kind of, you know, regular kind of, you know, deep rhythmic breathing to falling asleep, and then it kind of like the breaths kind of got like more few and far between, and then it kind of seemed like she wasn't really like breathing like that anymore. And so that's what first made me look down. So I'm like holding on to her, and I kind of look down, and I'm like, what the heck? And so I just kind of kissed her forehead, just kind of rubbing her face, just, you know, seeing if maybe, you know, I don't know if you guys, y'all with spouses and stuff, you know, like sometimes if when you hit that real deep sleep, they kind of just sit there for a while, and then they kind of, and, you know, and then the rhythmic breathing starts again, you know. So I'm expecting that's what's going to happen, but kind of doesn't really start up again the way I'm expecting it to, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to pay very close attention, see what's going on. And I'm looking at her, and I'm kind of rubbing her face, and, you know, just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen, ready to spring into action if necessary. And then while I'm watching her, she starts growing super, super pale. Just color just starts draining from her face as I'm sitting there looking at her. And I'm like, okay. All right. Now I'm kind of like, you know, leaning up a little bit, getting ready to reach for my phone. And then her lips start turning blue. And then I can't wake her up. And at this point, thankfully, you know, when that, people always talk about that fight or flight, that kind of kicks in when life or death situations kind of happen. And Um, Thankfully, all praises to the Most High. For the most part, when those kind of situations have kicked in throughout my adolescent and young adult life and so on and so forth, He's blessed me that when those situations kick in, instead of like going into flight or just kind of freezing, I kind of go into this like state of being like hyper aware of everything and just like springing into action without thinking about it. So I'm not taking no credit because it's not like a conscious decision that I make like, oh, I'm gonna get everything done, you know. Like it's just the way that He's made me, and He's allowed me to function this way, thankfully. um, and so like I kind of go in, like I said, this hyper focus, and like it almost seems like time like slows down, and I'm just like, I get just very clear, concise, simple thoughts, and it's just like do this, do this, do this, you know. And so once I couldn't wake her up, and I saw her, the color was gone, her lips had turned blue. That state like just instantly kicked in. I like got up, tried to wake her up for a second, nothing was happening. I said okay, hopped up, grabbed my phone, called 911, gave them all the info, hung up the phone. Kind of laid her in the bed, propped her as best as I could. I went, grabbed at this point we were living next door to her parents. We were living with her grandmother. They lived next door to her parents. And so, but her grandmother wasn't there at the time. She was up in Denver. So I woke up, went and got the kids together, make sure they were dressed, packed them up a little bag, a couple of snacks and everything, took them next door to be with her parents, dropped them off, gave them kind of a quick rundown of what was going on. I was like, hey, there's something wrong with Teresa. I can't get her to wake up. Me and her pops come back next door. We come over there. We're working with her, trying to wake her up, so on and so forth. Again, by the grace of the Most High, I don't know. It just never happens. You call an ambulance, and they like sit around and like eat Subway sandwiches and like stick their fingers in their butts and wait for as long as possible to see if you kick the can. I guess like y'all know how it is with emergency services. I'm telling you, these people. It seemed like they were pulling up. Like by the time that I got back to the house, it was like they were there. It was crazy. They came so fast, and I was just so grateful for that. And me and her pops come back over. The paramedics are there super quick. They grab her, they pull her down off of the bed. They can't really get her to wake up that much either, so they lay her down on the floor. I don't really remember why they did that, to be honest, but they put her on the floor there, working with her, pushing on her chest, trying to get her to respond. If I'm trying to remember if they actually did like the little smelling salts thing. But
they had a mask on me. I remember that.
Yeah, I know they did. At some point, they put the oxygen mask on her. But I think that was after they actually started to get you to respond to make sure you would be breathing. It was happening very fast. There was a lot going on, so I might remember a couple of these out of order. So they definitely did put the oxygen mask on her. But I thought that was right after they made sure they got her to wake up. Now, she started responding and breathing before she actually woke up. Like they finally got physical response out of her. And so it's the paramedics, me and her father, we're just like all crouched around her and kind of like how she was saying when I had my episode where I lost control of my body. I was just sitting there just silently praying so hard. Like I have never prayed so hard in my entire life. Just praying so hard that He would bring her back, that this would not be it. Now, oddly enough, also I never felt real fear that she was going to die at this moment, and attribute that to what you may. I don't know. I never really felt like she was in danger of like this is it, I'm going to lose her. But I was praying so hard to make sure that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, when you get in them situations, you get to bargaining with the Most High, and I'll never do this, that, and the third again. If you do this, I'll drop everything and go to seminary. I'll become a pastor tomorrow. Just please, just bring her back. Praying super hard, making, bargaining with the Creator of heaven and earth. Like, what are you gonna offer? But I was trying because that was my baby, and So she responded physically. Whew, the relief, like, the relief that I felt was just like, okay. Because again, I didn't feel like that she was gonna like necessarily die right there, but I did feel like maybe there would be serious medical issues, you know, and repercussions of her like not breathing for however long, and you know, brain damage or organ damage, you know, whatever. I was definitely terrified. She physically responded. She started breathing, and then after a while, she like woke up, and she like it was almost like a violent like like coming to like that, and like you could just see how disoriented she was when she woke back up. And she was like, it like took a minute, you know, like when you see somebody wake, like when, if you ever had to wake up your children, like in the middle of the night, or you go on a trip and you have to like leave for a road trip real early, and you wake them up, and they wake up and like they're awake, but they're not there. Like they're still like in dreamland, and like their eyes are open and they're like staring and looking around, but you like see them like come to themselves. It was like that. She like woke up and she was like looking around, but you could tell she wasn't like processing what was happening. She was looking at everything but not seeing it. And then you like kind of slowly saw her, you know, her come behind her eyes, and she came to, and then she was looking around. You could tell she was like, what the heck? And so she came to, she was there, she was back. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, you know, so then they're asking me questions, what's going on? Is that, you know, they're right away telling me like, yeah, this is classic, you know, overdose symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Is there any narcotics that she doing, drugs? And I was just like, and as soon as they said that, I'm thinking, wait, what? Like, OD, like there's, no, not my baby. You know, we knew a lot of people, because again, we were in that world, knee deep. We knew a lot of people that had OD. There have been a lot of people who didn't make it. Some people did, a lot of people didn't. We just knew a lot of instances very close to us, very close to people who were close to us, of people ODing and not making it. And it just, even though we were wilding, completely wilding, again, Yah had kept that kind of a bit of protection and separation for us, and we did try hard to stay present for our children, so on and so forth. And there's a danger in becoming complacent in your sin and taking Yah's grace and mercy for granted. There's a definite danger in that. So if you are involved in anything right now that you should not be, and you're playing with your life, and Yah has been gracious and merciful to you, don't get comfortable with that. You don't know when the lesson is going to kick in and you've exhausted your get out of jail free cards. You just never know. Do not rely on that. Get right with him while you still can. And so anyway, I'm hearing them say OD, and I'm just like, what? No, that's not. And so then I just have this horrible sinking feeling. I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, I did have that full script. And I'm thinking, you know, but I hit it. We fell asleep together on the couch. There's no way. So I go find it. And like I said, you know, like she said earlier, she knew I'm a little hiding places. I thought I was being pretty slick. I go and I get my bottle, and there's like 5 left. Like I had like a script of like, I think at this point I had 90. I was getting like 90. I'd only had it for like a day or so, and like not 5. I'm exaggerating, but there was like, you know, like 70% of the bottle was gone easily. 75% gone. And I pick up the bottle, and when I see how empty and light it is, like, that's actually when I got scared, when I realized like how many she had actually taken. And I was like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And so anyway, they put her in the ambulance, they take her to the hospital. You know, I'm tend to be very private with our relationship. You know, I thankfully the Most High kind of matured us and grew us out of the putting all your business on social media and putting all your relationship issues out there, having everybody all in your business. We weren't really into that. But this is one of the few times I ever did a social media post, and I didn't do any detail or anything, but I did just ask people to pray for her, because like I said, I got really scared once I saw how many were missing. So I just put on there just like a general, like, hey everyone, like, you know, please pray for Teresa, blah blah blah. You know, she's having a medical issue right now, something like that, or she had to get rushed to the hospital, something like that. And you know, those prayers, you know, the prayers of the righteous avail as much. I reached out to my family back home who are believers, and just had people praying for her. I talked to her sister, who was back in Missouri by this time, um, and I just talked to a couple people. I wasn't giving out any information because I'm not putting my baby out there like that, but I was just asking people for their prayers, and she went off in the ambulance. We got everything squared away with her parents and the children, and then I hopped in the car and followed them up. Went up to the hospital, and she can take it away from there. What happened when she woke up and all that.
Yeah. So I do remember them clarifying that I had a prescription and that they checked to make sure that it was legitimate and I had a prescription. And then I had to stay and get a psych evaluation to make sure that I wasn't trying to take my own life. And when I, made it clear that I had something to live for, they basically told me, okay, well, because at this point I had a couple of different prescriptions. I had an opiate, and then I had a what was basically kind of like a muscle relaxant, like a nerve,
like a nuclear level muscle relaxant.
Yeah, because because of the fracture in my back, I had a nerve that's pinched in my lower, like a sciatic nerve that's pinched. And so at this time, they had found that my muscle relaxers were all gone. And so what they told me when I left the hospital was, okay, well, just make sure that you refill your prescriptions so that you don't have to take too many of this one next time. And that was their diagnosis. That was the treatment plan moving forward. Was for an opiate overdose, was make sure you refill your prescriptions. Okay. So I need to make it clear to y'all that this medical industry is not here for us, okay? They are not here to help. And I'm not saying every doctor is bad and every nurse is evil. That's not true. I know there are good people that mean well, but overall, the people who are up here that are running the medical industry, they are not for us, okay? So natural healing is all I'm gonna say. But yeah, that was just another crazy incidents with the medical industry. And I just thank the Most High that He gave me another chance at this point. Like, He didn't have to do that, and I was being so irresponsible, and I almost took myself away from my children who were so little. They were just babies, and they almost didn't have a mother because of my just idiotic decisions. This was just an all-out just attack on my life, and I thank God for my amazing husband who literally was my hero and saved my life, quite literally, and made sure, he sprung into action and made sure that I was, there for our kids moving forward, and I will forever be grateful for that. It's honestly surreal, and I don't even know. It took a while for it to really hit me, because it felt, it didn't feel real, and it felt like a dream, to be honest. And so it took a few years actually for that to fully resonate in me, to actually realize what went on there. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so thankful that y'all gave me a chance to be here and to share this with you guys. And so just know that He can bring you out of anything. It doesn't matter how deeply you've gotten. It doesn't matter how filthy you are. He can cleanse you completely.